Hello guys, and welcome to another video. Today we are signal stripes. If you are a forex trader and you're looking for trading signals on a daily basis, we suggest you click the links at the description below, where you can join us and join our community where we give trading signals every day. And yeah, you can check us in if you're a learner. If you're a beginner, complete beginner, also check the link in the description below for a complete free beginners course by Forex Kenya. And last time, if you haven't looked at our first video, the link is also there in the description below. So you're going to need to go through that first so that you can follow up with this video. But last video we looked at the 3 trading concepts to constantly master in your forex trading journey. So today we're going to go deeper into one aspect of the 3, and that aspect is the direction aspect. So we discussed in depth in the introduction between the 3 concepts, and today we're going to look at the 2 directions or 2 predictions that you need to make in the market as it pertains to the direction. So there's 2 types of directions that you're going to be looking at in the market. Now, the first one is a trend change or a complete reversal, okay, and the second one is a pullback transition, okay, or a trend continuation. Now we're going to start and go deeper into the pullback transition or trend continuation, okay. So in our first video we said you want to be selling when sellers are selling, or you want to be selling in a seller's market and you want to be buying in a buyer's market. So if we're looking at this example here, let's illustrate this. So this right here is a seller's market, okay. So we've now figured out the direction is going down and we want to sell, okay. And we mentioned in the previous video that you can sell in these areas, okay. You do not want to sell in areas that sellers are not present in. And how do you know that a seller is present? You know a seller is present from where he started, or from where this institution or this fund started selling, okay. Great. But now what are the key indications, okay? Because the ideal situation that you want is you want the market to do something like this, to pull back, okay. You want it to pull back and you want to get an entry, okay. You want to get an entry that has a very little drawdown, okay, so that you can continue down with that trend and form even lower lows and lower highs, okay. But the pullback transition that we're talking about here, okay, or the trend continuation. Now the keyword here is transition, and the transition is what happens here, okay. In every pullback there has to be a transition that will signify, that will notify you that, you know, hey, something is going on here and the trend is about to start continuing, okay. So have your attention at this area. Of course you don't want to be taking sells in these areas down here, okay, because the transitions have not happened, okay. In this area here there is no transition, and in this area here there is no transition. So today we're going to illustrate a bit further on what a transition is, okay. So bear with us. Now we're going to start with a sell trend, and then we're going to go in deeper with a buy trend. Now we're going to start again. This is our sell trend, and we have already illustrated that we want to be selling in areas where sellers are present, okay. So the market starts with a pullback, 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 pullback. Now there are 4 steps. Sorry about that. There are 4 steps in a transition, okay. Now the first step, what we'll need to do to look at these 4 steps, we have to magnify the pullback, okay. So we're going to take the pullback, we're going to magnify it right here, okay. Great. Now if you're looking at a pullback, this is a series of higher highs and higher lows, okay, because it's a buy pullback. Remember, we're looking for sells, and the pullback is a buy pullback. So this is the magnified version of this pullback, okay. It's not a buy trend, it's a magnification of the pullback that we want. Now, step number 1 in the transition stage is first you want to see a failure to make a higher high. Okay, you want to see these buyers who are coming in with a pullback fail to go higher than a previous higher high that they have already formed. Okay, that is step 1. Step number 2, you want to see a lower low being formed. Okay, because this lower low is being formed by a potential seller who you want to capitalize and enter with. Remember, the aim of this is to find a point with minimum drawdown. So if you see a price being defended by a seller, and by seeing this price being defended, it's going to be indicated with a lower low. Okay, so you want your seller to prove that he really is in this market and is really interested at this specific price up here. So step 1, failure to make a higher high. Step 2, lower low formed. Step 3, you want to give this buyers a second chance to prove themselves. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that once a lower low is formed, you now go in and to sell. No, you want to prove that this buyer now is losing the game. Remember again, the key essence here that we're trying to figure out is an entry where there will be minimum or zero drawdown. That is the ideal situation. So we now have step 2, and step 2 is formation of a lower low. Now step 3, we said you want to prove that this buyer is out. So step 3, you want to give the buyers a second chance, because you see, you might sell. If you sell down here, you might sell and then the market comes and does this. Okay, gets you out. Okay, so you want to be patient and wait for a second trial. You want to give these buyers a second chance to show you what they have, what they've got. Okay, and that is essential. Step number 3 is key. It is very important that we understand step number 3. Okay, great. Now step number 3, second trial. Step number 4, you want to see this second trial failing. Ideally, the second trial is not supposed to go past this area where they failed to make a higher high in step number 1. So remember, step number 1, failure to make a higher high. Step number 2, lower low formed. Okay, that is step number 2 right here. Step number 3 is the second trial that is happening right now. Okay, that is step number 3. Step number 4 is a failure. Now this failure has to be rapid. Okay, it has to be rapid. By rapid, what we mean is it has to be heavy, it has to have momentum, it has to come in with some large candlesticks. If it doesn't, it's okay, but the key thing here is to see this buy fail. Okay, we also typically want to see that buy fail. So that is step number 4. Okay, step number 5, now you want to see a range. Okay, you want to see some consolidation, you want to see orders piling up. Now why is this important? Orders piling up, it means that our seller here is getting ready. Okay, is getting ready to start moving the market. Okay, the seller up here is going to indicate that he is starting to move the market with a range. Now once you see this step number 4, this range, this is now your cue to enter. Okay, you can now take the trade, and ideally the stop loss would be right around this area where the buys have been failing at. Okay, and so we go down with that. Okay, now if you join our community, we share these insights, and we give signals according to these insights. We've given plenty of signals, especially gold and cadmium, last week and this week also. So we use these principles to figure out where we want to go. Okay, now for the sake of understanding, we're going to repeat these 4 steps. Okay, now remember, we want to sell. Okay, Okay, we want to sell because this is a sell trend, this is a seller's market, and we want to be in the sells. Okay, but we want to find an area where there is going to be a minimum drawdown or a zero drawdown. Now this zero drawdown is going to happen in areas where sellers are present. Okay, good. Now 4 steps of transition. Now let's go in and repeat. This is our sell trend. Okay, we want to sell up here. Now price has been pulling back, it's been pulling back, it's been pulling back, and it has now entered an area of interest to us. Now we want to look for transitions right here. Okay, you want to look for the same transition in the 4 steps, so that now you can find your entry position down for the sell. Okay, okay, good. Now again, the 4 steps as a repetition. Remember, we are magnifying this pullback right here. That pullback is the one that we are magnifying over here, and that pullback is forming higher highs, higher lows. The first step you want to see is a failure to make a higher high, step number 1. Step number 2, formation of a lower low, step number 2. Step number 3, you want to give the buyers a second chance. Okay, and you want step number 4, that this second chance to fail. Okay, once it's failed, now step number 5 for the range. Okay, now once the range is in, you now have your cue to enter the trade. You can enter right here. Ideally your stop loss will be around that area, and your take profit will be the next problem area, meaning where buyers are present next. Okay, so those are the 4 steps. Now we're going to repeat this again for the buy side. That means you're looking for buys. Okay, now if you're looking for buys, right, you open a chart, you have a currency pair, it's buy. Okay, now you want to buy in areas where buyers are existent. Okay, or where buyers exist. Now in these areas where buyers are existing, okay, this is a pullback. You want to pull back. Now you want to capture a price that will have minimum drawdown. Okay, minimum drawdown. Now you need transitions here. This transition is going to tell you whether this market is prime for entry for the buy side. Now let's look at the transitions for the buy side. Okay, now transitions on the buy side, we're going to magnify this pullback right here, this pullback, and that pullback is a sell pullback. It's pulling back, the market is pulling back. So the first thing you want to see, step number 1, is a failure to make a lower low. Step number 2, formation of a higher high. Step number 3, second try. You want to give these sellers a second chance to prove themselves. So you want to see the second trial come down. Step number 4, you want to see the second trial fail rapidly. Okay, and then step number 5, you want to see a range. Okay, the range is key because you want to see orders being piled up after a move like this. Okay, very key, very key. So now that is your cue for entry on the buy side. Okay, all right. So if this was not a bit clear, you can just rewind this video and go back, look at this concept again. So now that we've looked at that specific trend, remember we're looking at that direction. Okay, the direction is what we're looking at, and we've said there's 2 directions: the pullback transition, we've discussed that, or the trend continuation. You want to continue with the trend. Okay, and you want to find an area where there will be 0 to minimum drawdown.